All right, guys, as with all empires, they must come to an end at some time or situation. It just depends on how long it takes to basically people mess up the system and do all their kind of stuff. All right, and there's different reasons for every empire or grouping of things coming to an end, but that's just part of it, and we talk about it in world history because that's kind of like what we talk about, so it's kind of fun. All right, so here we go. The decline and fall of the Roman Empire. You can tell I'm a little bit tired, because sorry, let's have fun. All right, so the empire is kind of in crisis, right? The Pax Romana is the peace of Rome, and it ends around 180, and it's about 300 years. And guys, it's not really peace. Per se, I mean, because right in the middle of it, you have uprisings, and you got the whole Jerusalem and Christianity actually starting during this time, and that wasn't very peaceful. You got the fall of the temple in 70 AD, and I mean it was nasty, all the stuff going on. So, but basically the idea is the Pax Romana means that for the most part there's not some major other group that's coming in and taking over, right? So the power is taken away by a series of short-lived emperors, high taxes on citizens, poor farmers, work for the wealthy, and partial slavery. And again, it's one of those things that we get struggle with. All right. So Emperor Diocletian rules from 80 284 to 305. Right now, that's this CE Common Era, but sometimes AD CE is going to be interchangeable. Right. He divided the empire into two parts. East-west, not north-south, but east-west. He fixed prices to maintain the economy. Farmers stayed on the land, almost followed the faller's job, and so he really restricted. Is almost in one sense, there was almost a dictatorship, and it was tough, right? So here is the split here. So Byzantium. We'll talk about the Byzantine Empire later on. But Byzantium is this area right in here. This is Anatolia, the Turkey region, and then you've got the Roman, and so you've got the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire, and there's some splits between. All right, so Emperor Constantine rules after him. He doesn't rule very long, only like 25 years, but he issues what's called the Edict of Milan, which grants tolerance for Christians, which is a good thing, at least in their minds, and orders the building of Constantinople, which is a new capital on the eastern side of the Roman Empire, right in this area, right? Okay, and so this is Constantine is he actually later on becomes a Christian, which we'll talk about later on. So foreign invasions is a series of barbarian invaders from the north who begin to terrorize the Romans. It lasts from about 400 to 500. Now remember, the Islamic nation hasn't even really been developed yet as far as the Muslim nation, because obviously you've got the Persians that are taking place in here, but it still hasn't. Muhammad has not been born yet. All right, and so there's still a lot of people groups that are around in the northern area, and one of the main people groups that we'll talk about is dun dun dun, dun the Huns, right? Attila the Hun, and a lot of different groups that come through, and they migrated from Central Asia in Russia area, okay, a little bit south of Russia. He's led by a feared Attila. They raid the Eastern Empire, they terrorize Italy, of course, and they retreat back to the Eastern Europe after his death, and then they kind of regroup for a little bit. But this is a Roman villa in Gaul, which is in France, okay, sacked by the hordes of Attila the Hun, and they carried off a lot of women and children to their little areas and tribal areas. Okay, so the Visigoths are another group that come in, and these Visigoths are a Germanic tribe. And guys, this is it kind of just gives you an idea of where things are. They're coming over in this area, so this is the Hun capital, all right, and this is just what we would consider now Germany in this region right here, and then you've got all of Russia, the Baltic regions over in here, and so just so you understand where things are coming from, right? So the Visigoths will come in here. That's that purple line, okay? And then you've got another group They come in, the Vandals, and rightly so. And then you got the Saxons. This is that English group that comes in up here, all right? So the Visigoths, Alaric the Visigoth enters Athens in 395 for about 15 years before he finally sacks Rome in 410. And kind of that's the beginning of the end for at least the Western Roman Empire at the time, okay? So the fall of Rome in 455, the Vandals become the second barbarian group to sack Rome. Germanic leader Docer overthrows the emperor, and then, as I said, this kind of marks the end of the Western Empire as we think about it, and it was pretty bad. And this, of course, is where we get now start the flavor of the Western civilization of these groups, not only the Saxons but the Visigoths and the Vandals and all the groups in the Germanic region tribes. Okay, so there's several causes for the fall of Rome. And really, that's really the same for a lot of groups. You could pretty much establish a group or reasons for each of the falls throughout the history. All right, so you got the military causes. There's just so many invasions from foreign groups, barbarian tribes, and call them barbarians because they what they sounded like was barbar. That's strangely enough, that's what they sounded like to the Romans, and that's why they called them barbarians. All right, and Roman army began to lack training discipline. They were more focused on their own personal matters. Rome relied on mercenaries, which those are foreign paid mercenaries, people that aren't necessarily loyal to Rome. So those are military causes. And then you got the political causes, the infighting. There are no rules of succession for the emperor. It was just basically first come, first serve, whoever could be the meanest and the ugliest. You got the Nero that comes in, and he's the whole fall of Rome, playing while the fiddle, playing the fiddle while the Roman gets or Rome gets destroyed. He of course blamed Christians, and that created a lot of conflict there. Dividing the empire weakened it, and people felt less loyal to the emperor and more actually to the Christian church, and so there was some religious influence there as well. And of course, anywhere you go, you got economic causes that reduce some ways in which people feel good about where they're living. Okay, so high taxes support the army and government. Middle class becomes poorer, loses land. Reliance on slavery as a labor source, and of course there's uprisings that happen at that too. And then social causes. So population declines due to diseases and constant war. Moral decay, loss of values, loyalty. There's a lot of stuff that happens in Rome at this time. A lot of some negative things that are taking place, and it was very expensive to keep what they call the bread and circuses people relied on. Basically, the idea here, guys, is that the fun, the excitement, the coliseums, the games, all that kind of stuff. It took a lot of money to keep that up. The trade wasn't there, economic upheaval. But guys, I want you to think about something. And this is kind of a Dr. T rant for a second. Think about our culture today, our country today. Do we have some of the same issues? Are we doing some of the same things? Can we learn from the past and the things that other people, other civilizations have done? And unfortunately, both the Romans, the Greeks, we're doing as a country, we're kind of doing some of the same on the same path in one sense as some of those regions are doing, and for good and bad. But we are also maybe not learning our lesson as we possibly could have. So just something to think about as you're doing this research and as you're going through the stuff that we're dealing with. Just maybe keeping that in mind as we go and look at some of the struggles that some of these groups had. Maybe perhaps there were some issues that could have been resolved a little differently, and are we in the same boat? All right, have a good one.